Today we have a DM who thinks that fantasy should be more like reality. Let's throw another log on the fire. This is one of the few times I wasn't the DM and I was super excited about being able to play. The DM pitched a fantasy romp through a homebrew campaign with a few custom rules. Session 0 comes around and the rules are basically a full overhaul. DM didn't like how unrealistic 5e was and thought it could use some sprucing. He had like 14 pages of rule changes, but here are some of the highlights. The type of action you take on a turn changes your initiative score. We had to recalculate initiative every single turn. Not only did it take forever to do the maths and check everyone had the right modifiers, it was a -1 modifier per spell level for casting spells, and -5 if you used a bonus action as well as an action, so the sorcerer and rogue of the party were completely doomed. Armor gave a damage reduction instead of AC. While not an inherently terrible idea, it doesn't really work with the rest of the maths of 5e. Some attacks would never get through the armor even with max damage in both directions, and it made Rule 3 even worse. Any crit, regardless of damage, had a chance to inflict serious or even permanent wounds. Spell slots didn't restore after a long rest. Instead, you rolled a hit die. That determined how many slots you'd get back. For example, if you rolled a 4, you could get back 4 first levels or 2 second levels, etc. The DM was a good friend, and although most of the party weren't super excited about the rules, some of us stuck it out for friendship's sake. I made a paladin, the DM's favorite class, and lo and behold, the paladin was buffed beyond belief. The find familiar horse she summoned didn't need to sleep because it was a celestial, and its charge attack counted as magical. With passives, feats, and armor combined, everything that hit me had a -9 reduction to their damage, and my AC was still up at 17 because of the shield rules. With my D10 hit die instead of the sorcerer's D6, I almost always got all my spell slots back while the casters struggled. The spellcasters, on the other hand, were absolutely doomed. They had no health, no protection, no spell slots, and were always last to act. If the sorcerer used Quicken spell ever, that was at least a -6 to his initiative. -5 from the bonus action, plus the spell level. Magic in this setting was so rare that monsters always went for the casters, even if they were literally cowering in the background, unable to do anything. There were encounters where my character took 0 damage, and the sorcerer went down 3 times. The DM would bend over backwards to give the fighter and me everything. Literally white knighting my white knight. Meanwhile, he'd ensure any spell would fail horribly, like having rain put out wall of fire, or find traps not finding the pitfall because the leaves covering it blocked line of sight. We were hunting a vampire through a city, and we were fairly sure we knew who it was, but this vampire was powerful and immune to the usual vampire detection methods when we tried them, including divine sense, and a homebrew edition being burned by holy symbols. This vampire even mysteriously had amnesia when the cleric used Zone of Truth to just ask him if he was the vampire. We were unamused by the twist when it came. Later, when we tracked the lair down, the sorcerer was attacked by a swarm of rats. They crit, dealing 2 damage, and as the party shrugs and goes to move on, the DM tells us to wait. He rolls a d100 and declares that the sorcerer loses his right hand. Lose, as in the hand is on the ground and he's bleeding out. By this point, investment in the game is so low, we stick the hand in a bag, heal the bleeding risk, and just leave, since our heavy-hitting spellcaster couldn't cast anything with an S component anymore. The local king pays a priest to reattach the hand. So realistic, right? And we get back to the story. If I told you this game ended in a TPK, I doubt it surprised you, but it was worse than that. The game ended because we forgot to purify the water one time, caught dysentery, aka we pooped ourselves, and despite prestidigitation, DM insisted all of our armor smelt too bad to use, and we would have to just buy new stuff or else wear nothing. After losing a PC's hand to rats and then this, we came to the realization that this campaign was never going to be a fantasy, and we all suggested we play something else. It's pretty sad that this game ended like a game of Oregon Trail. Frankly, I don't care who your friends are. I'm not playing in a game with 14 pages of new rules that completely nerf my character. The players should have left in session 0. I just don't see the point in adding unnecessary realism to games. Sure, some things can be a little far-fetched, but that's what makes playing a game fun in my opinion. I want to be able to do cool stuff and not be bogged down by tons of rules that are solely designed to hurt and slow down the game as a whole. What do you all think about this situation?